Hello to all you amazing souls. So I'm on here today to give you a energy update regarding everything that's been going on lately. And I know for myself, my galactic antenna has never been more online. I mean, I'm receiving downloads throughout the day, so much so that I need to be home a lot, or I need to just be in nature or just with myself because it's so intense right now. Okay. There's a lot coming up to the surface. A lot of fears, a lot of limiting beliefs, a lot of everything that once had us entrapped within an artificial grid system, within the control structures of the service to self groups that had us enslaved, that degraded our DNA, that hijacked our minds, that manipulated our perception of reality. So there's all of these energies that are bubbling up because they've been suppressed and repressed so many lifetimes. So what I was shown specifically was that because there are so many galactic energies coming in at this time, there are these incoming waves of light, and the intradimensionals, the extra-dimensionals, all of the intergalactic beings that are assisting us at this time are very much involved. They were always involved, but they can only give us as much as our minds can handle. All right, they're always there, but if our mind is still dumbed down, then we're not able to access that information, or it's not quite time for disclosure yet. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about the event. To me, the event is this very apparent, abrupt change in consciousness. All right, it's like we're being upgraded or boosted up into a fourth density consciousness from a third density consciousness where we were enslaved, where we were unconscious, where we were manifesting and creating by default through the unconscious mind and through our fears and all of this. The event to me is this very evident transitional period that's taking place at this time to help us transition into a higher octave of the collective consciousness, of group soul consciousness. So what I was shown is that because we're being upgraded and all these energies are coming in, they're really pouring into this cereal bowl. I saw it as a cereal bowl. The bowl is representative of the collective mind that we're all a part of. All right. So you have an individual mission. I have an individual mission. But the collective mission is that we're all going to get there together. We all signed up to help each other move to the higher octaves of reality. All right. I can be super elevated, which is wonderful, but it doesn't matter because I came here to hold hands with everyone, and they're assisting me and I'm assisting them, and we're all going to lift into these higher waves, these higher new earth realities, or these higher realities. So think of it like this. There's the huge influx of light right now. This light is so potent that it's pulling up all of the beliefs of enslavement, all of the thoughts around enslavement that were held within the collective unconscious. Because when you're conscious, you don't let people manipulate you. And we were unconscious for such a long time. Our DNA went through degradation. We believed the lies. We believed that the government was good and was looking out for us. We believed all these things, which is true from one viewpoint, but today I'm just going to tackle it from this viewpoint. Our DNA was dumbed down, okay? And whether that's of our making, of our design, or that we were in fact enslaved, it happened. So the details are not really relevant for this particular video. I can get into that in another video. So you have all these energies that are being showered upon us at this time, and they're going to exacerbate everything that is still unintegrated, everything that is still unresolved, everything that is untransmuted. These beliefs within the cereal bowl of the collective unconscious, they stem back to our ancestors. They stem back to everyone who was ever persecuted, anyone who was ever ostracized, anyone who was ever alienated, anyone who was ever marginalized. It stems back to trauma. It stems back to, you name it, okay? It stems back to racism. It stems back to slavery. It stems back to ageism, killing people for their sexuality. It stems back to so many things. So when traumas are experienced, they get lodged into the collective unconscious. Also, when we watch the news and there are all these different subliminal messages or codes that are coming through the screen that are programming our unconscious and our subconscious, that keeps the old systems alive. Because if someone watches, let's say, a horror movie, I love horror movies, by the way, but I can also watch it from a conscious standpoint. If someone watches a horror movie and they start to get scared, well, that fear starts to move and it trickles down into this bowl of cereal. So even if you're not someone who's afraid, because you're here to do this at a collective level, those energies are still going to affect you in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's that you're going to have to clean it up for someone, or whether that you're going to have to spread love to someone who needs it. We're a collective. We're individuals, but we are a collective of beings. So individually, if you're afraid, that's not going to affect me because I'm aware of fears and I can look at them and just neutralize them by observing them. But from a collective standpoint, we're all needing to ascend together, so it does affect me. All right, just like if I have a fear, it's going to affect someone. It affects the entire collective ascension timeline. So what I kept seeing was that there are all these beings who are assisting us right now, and the energies are so freaking potent that they're going to pull up to the surface all the fears, beliefs, thoughts, perceptions, manipulations, everything that traumatized us that was held within this bowl of Lucky Charms. So this one marshmallow is going to come up, and another marshmallow is going to come up, and whether or not you've already transcended that or dealt with that, it's still going to affect you right now. That's why the energies are still so intense, because the event is moving us at a collective level into this higher density consciousness. Collectively, we are doing this together. So if we're moving as a collective into this higher octave of consciousness, into this higher octave of spirituality, then it's going to affect everyone who is involved with this ascension, which is all of us. That's why the energies have been so freaking intense lately. I know for me, I'm getting so many downloads. Most of the downloads you're going to receive are from the collective unconscious. Like you're going to feel a fear that you're like, oh my God, this isn't mine, but it's coming up. But then you can also receive information from the angels who were once guiding that person who held the fear. I know I went really deep there. But most of the downloads are originating from the collective unconscious. So the downloads are going to start as negative, but then you're also going to gain insight from all of the angels and beings who were guiding those people, our ancestors at the time, on how to resolve this issue or find a solution. Time doesn't really exist, you guys. I'm saying that like most of the downloads are going to be negative, and then they're going to unravel and you're going to pull all these positive downloads from it. So I hope that makes sense. I know sometimes I go on a left tangent, but it's because I receive so much at the same time but just to simplify it, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling barraged with thoughts, with information, with emotions, it's due to us collapsing the old timeline of fear, of control, of manipulation, and us now merging into a higher dimensional timeline as a collective, not as individuals. You can have an individual who's already attained galactic brain, galactic mindset, crystal skull. You can have an individual who has access to the 7th dimension, 8th dimension, 9th dimension. But collectively, what we experience in the world is a reflection of the average of where we all stand vibrationally. So if you have someone who's super spiritually asleep, making, horrible choices in their life, then you have someone who's super elevated. Well, the average of that, now if you take everyone together, what we're seeing in the world stage is a reflection of where we all stand on average, the average frequency. So Now that we're being bumped up to spiritual first class, we're being bumped up to this fourth density of consciousness, a lot is going to be experienced. All the stuff, all the energies from the lower timeline, the third dimensional timeline, are going to fight tooth and nail to remain relevant on your world. And that's why we're all transmuting and sweeping away these energies together. Because we understand that that doesn't serve us. That's the past. It's like a dinosaur. They're extinct. It doesn't exist anymore. So, because we're evolving, and that's what the path is. We evolve. You climb up a stair, and then you don't need what was below you anymore. You keep climbing, climbing, climbing. And I don't mean that in a bypassing, like a spiritual bypassing kind of way. I mean it more like you cannot climb to the next stair unless you work with those energies. And then once you learn how to integrate your light body, once you learn how to integrate the lesson, once you learn how to integrate the messages in the bottle, then you usually collapse that timeline and you move on to the next and the next and the next and the next. That's why an actor who's become famous, the likelihood of them becoming a waiter again, it's slim to none, because they've already learned what they needed to from being a waiter. They collapsed that timeline and they eventually made it as an actor with humility and integrity and all of this. Otherwise, chances are they wouldn't have made it unless they slept around, and then they would have made it, but then it's probably going to crumble and then they'll have to become a waiter again. But you get my point. So, there's a lot going on right now. Just a lot. So when you guys hear people talk about the event, whether or not you're going to see a light, I mean, I've seen people talk about that. That doesn't really matter because, again, we're not supposed to be fixated on the external. These downloads are always available to us from within. Always. So you can say that the event that's going to happen in the year 3000, I have access to it now. I just have to travel through the Stargate of my third eye, travel there, pick up the information, and bring it back in and integrate it. So the events are always happening at an interdimensional level. But to me, the event is more people who are asleep are being forced to wake up now. That's, to me, the event is people who have been awake are going to be the future helpers for the people who are climbing out of 3D and moving into 4D. And together as one, we're going to start realizing or recognizing that gossip is not good, that fear isn't good, that we've been controlled all these years, that we've been dumbed down. We're going to wake up to the truth. So there's going to be a lot of disclosure, a lot of things being exposed because we're awakening. I mean, you guys know, you go on Instagram, and I was on social media in 2011, not on Instagram, but I can tell you, people were not really awakening. I'd get one like on a thing. So, and now everyone's talking about positive thinking. Everyone's talking about the 5D. Like, it's very apparent that we are awakening at critical mass. So you're going to feel a lot of energy. Now, I'm going to go into the second part of this, because the entire point of the video is for what I'm about to share, but I kind of wanted to give you like a quick synopsis before I get into that. I got a clear vision from Jesus today, a clear message. So these words are not mine. I give myself credit for being a clear channel, but that's about it. The message came from Jesus. It's a collaborative effort, obviously, because if I was smoking and drinking and doing all these things, I probably would not have received the download. Or maybe I would have, right? Who knows? So these were the words exactly. In this now moment, you're exactly where you need to be. Otherwise, you would be elsewhere. In this now moment, you're exactly where you need to be. Otherwise, you would be elsewhere. So I asked I asked Jesus what this meant, and it meant that even though you might be feeling a lot of intensified energies, impressions, imprints that are making you want to take action, don't let the fear drive you. Don't be driven by an old narrative, which is all of the stories that were anchored into the collective unconscious mind in the bowl of cereal. Don't let old stories drive you into action because it's just an old story. It's not happening now. The energies are catalyzing, so they're acting as catalysts for all the old traumas that we had in other lives, that our ancestors had in another life, or you could just say it's not a past life, it's just alternate lifetimes. All of the traumas that occurred through manipulation, infringement of our free will, not having a voice. All of those energies that are coming up are not in the now moment, but they are being asked to be cleared in the now moment. The energies are activating old trauma, but you're going to think that the trauma is happening now and you need to take action now. When in fact, all you need to do is clean sweep that energy by bringing awareness to it. So Jesus' message was, in this now moment, you're exactly where you need to be. Otherwise, you would be elsewhere. Meaning, don't try to run from this. Don't try to fix it. There's nowhere to go. All of the downloads you're receiving are being received because you're where you are with the circumstances that you're dealing with. Even if they might not feel good right now, because so many of those unconscious beliefs and old stories and old narratives are coming up to the surface, you wouldn't be receiving all of these downloads if you weren't where you are right now. So there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to run. We are here now to deal with what comes up now. But don't make a decision because you're feeling the impulse. Don't make a decision because you're feeling fear. Don't make a decision because some thought is trying to coerce you into taking action. Don't make a decision from that place. If you're feeling foggy, if you're feeling cloudy, if you're feeling confused, that is just an old trauma that was part of the artificial grid system, which was real to us at the time, but is no longer real now. It's a timeline that's being collapsed, but because it's being collapsed, every being, every thought form, everything that ever inhabited that timeline is freaking out. So because they're in panic mode, they're going to try to grab onto you through your mind to get any leftover juice that they can, to get any extra blood that they can pull from you, like a vampire. Don't let them draw your blood. Our ancestors were terrified. Our ancestors could have been us. We were terrified. If you were psychic lifetimes ago, you would have been burned at the stake. If you were black, you would have been enslaved. If you were gay, you would have been killed. Think of how traumatizing that was for them, for us. But we know the truth now because everything is being unearthed. Everything is being unveiled. But everything had to happen in a gradual way. And that's because of us as well, because we were still judging. We were still playing the victim. We were still doing all these things. So I don't want to get into that side of things in this video, because then it's going to be like a 5-hour video. But we played a part in it. It was part of the experiment, and we signed up for it. We're here through our free will. No one forced it upon us to be here. Was our DNA degraded? Was our DNA diminished? 100% it was. And the event means that we're recollecting all that we are. We're remembering. The veil is being removed. We can see that we've been controlled all these years. Now, we don't want to play the opposite side, because then we're just like the enemy. There is no enemy here. We just have to be present with these energies and hold a space for them as they come up. These are energies, sorry, my thing went off. These are energies held within the collective bowl of cereal that is unconscious. Okay? So, I'm going to keep going into this download. So, then Jesus said to me, because I've been struggling with a lot of things lately as well. And there are things that I've already dealt with. However, from the collective viewpoint, I haven't dealt with them because you guys are all me and I'm you. So from the collective standpoint, we as a collective have to hold ourselves responsible for everything that's coming up. Whether you've cleared it at an individual, personal level or not is irrelevant. The fact of the matter is we are all residing upon this bowl or this stage, and all of these old energies that are coming up are going to have to be cleared by all of us. No one is spared from that. We signed up for this. Okay? It doesn't help anyone if you have a Dalai Lama and the rest of the world is suffering. That doesn't do anything. The Dalai Lama would hold an energy that would help other people come together. They would have their downloads and they would all equally move into the higher timeline together. That's the point. Our planet is going galactic. Our planet is going to become a Pleiades. Our planet is going to become a Sirius. Our planet is going to become an Arcturus. That's what the planet is in the midst of doing. It's in the midst of transitioning itself into the higher densities so that it can become part of the Galactic Confederation of Light. That's what's happening. In the grand scheme of things, one person is just one person. They're like a little speck. From a different viewpoint, they have the power to shift things. They really do. They can shift poles, they can shift the electromagnetics, they can shift all of that. But from the collective viewpoint, we all have to do this together. All right, so, and I hope you guys are cool with my little like sidebars because I go off on tangents a lot. So the download was, in this now moment, you're exactly where you need to be. Otherwise, you would be elsewhere. Then Jesus said, you need to repeat that now. So then I said, in this now moment, I am exactly where I need to be. Otherwise, I would be elsewhere. Because you can't outrun this thing anymore. We have to be here. We have to face this thing. We have to give it love. We have to acknowledge it. We have to bridge the gaps. We have to build the rainbow bridge to the fifth dimension. And we're now moving into the rainbow bridge consciousness of, whoa, that person's trying to control me. Whoa, that person just took a jab at me. Whoa, like we're seeing through all of that and we're cleaning up house. That's why the energies are so intense, because the third dimension is fighting to intercept us from building the rainbow bridge. But the rainbow bridge is already here. So the darkness or the dark magicians or the dark wizards, the service to self structures, all the corrupt stuff going on, they've already lost. They've already lost. But now, as we move up, we're going to have to interface with all of that stuff that was deeply, deeply buried within us, within the collective mind. So then I repeated it. In this now moment, I am exactly where I need to be. Otherwise, I would be elsewhere. And I felt a lot of peace wash over me. Now, I went deeper into the download. Jesus then said to me, wait, let me grab my phone because I wrote it. I'm sorry, you guys. Because it was so clear that I had to write it when he said it. Okay. In this now moment, there is something I need to surrender to something I need to conquer, or something I need to accept. So whatever situation you're in right now, you either have to surrender, you have to conquer it and say, I'm done with this. I'm going to face my fear. I'm going to jump without my parachute. I'm just going to go for it. Or you need to accept it. Okay? I'll break those down because I didn't understand. Because to me, surrendering and accepting sounded too similar. So I didn't understand why he gave me all of that. In this now moment, you need to surrender. There's something you need to surrender to, something you need to conquer, or something you need to accept. So then I asked Jesus, well, what does that mean? Surrender and accept sound very similar. So then he broke it down. Surrender is passive. You're just going to be passive. Like, let whatever force is leading you right now, if there's something that you're resisting, but you deep down know you're supposed to not resist it, that's surrendering. It's like you're riding a wave, or you're letting the current take you, right? You're on this kayak and you're going downstream and you need to just surrender. And even though you don't know where you're going, you need to just trust where you're going. That's surrender. It's being passive. Then he went into, there's something you need to conquer. He showed me that this was active. There's something you need to overcome. There's something you need to move beyond. There's some sort of a hurdle that you need to jump over. So, I saw this as there's something that you're supposed to do that you've been holding off. And even though you still have the tug of war, because you're still conflicted, you know what you're supposed to do. It's like a deep inner knowingness that all you're doing is putting it on hold. And there's no need to put it on hold, because if you put it on hold, you're clinging on just like those third dimensional beings. You're clinging on to the old way. And there's nothing to cling on to. That is gone. Kiss it goodbye. It's gone. So there's something you need to surrender, right? You need to just trust the process. There's something you need to conquer. You need to just jump without a parachute and trust that your wings will be there. They will spread and you will be able to fly. And you're going to be so happy when you do it. Okay? You're going to marvel at how powerful you are. And then the third one, which seems so similar to the first one, was there's something you need to accept. And what he showed me was accept was neutral. Surrender was passive, so it was like a negative in terms of like you're passive, you're just negative. The active was positive, so you're taking action, it's positive. Boom, let's go. It's the masculine charge. The negative charge is the feminine, you're surrendering. The positive is the masculine, let's go, let's go, let's go. The acceptance just looked like neutral. So there's something that you're in, or a battle that you're having within yourself, like spiritual warfare, or it feels like angels and demons are in your head. And rather than fighting it or surrendering to it or trying to conquer it, you just need to accept it. Because when you accept it, you neutralize it. That's why it's neutral. When you accept it, you neutralize it. And it's not that it's going to take you anywhere, or it's not that you have to go anywhere. It's none of that. It's that you're neutralizing something for the entire collective by accepting it. Okay? Now, you're also doing that for the entire collective if you're surrendering or being active or conquering, but acceptance just feels like I'm just accepting it. It's very neutral. So I'm going to repeat what Jesus said one more time, because it came so clearly, and you guys know I don't usually do like a 30-minute video, but this needs to be shared. So I'm going to probably call it the event and a message from Jesus. Even though Jesus isn't really my primary guide. I work with Merlin is my main guide. Lefty, who is my clairaudient angel, he's my other guide. The Syrians are my guides. I've worked with the Arcturians. They're not as involved right now, but the Syrians, because I have a lot of lifetimes in Sirius. Jesus usually comes to me when I'm feeling vulnerable, when I'm feeling puzzled and I don't know how to unpuzzle my mind, when there's something in my life that's taking place and I just don't have the answer. I just don't know. I don't know. I'm struggling. I don't know what's going on. That's when Jesus usually appears, and which makes sense as to why he appeared today, because the energies have been honestly nonstop the last few days. There's something beautiful about it because I'm getting inundated with downloads, which is wonderful, but it's also a lot. It's a lot to handle at times. You know, when your galactic antenna is online and it's picking up on all of these different frequencies intuitively, it can be a lot. But as crazy as this sounds, I think it's okay to get messy sometimes. I think it's okay to be a hot mess because, and I thought about this today, I was like, I've been a hot mess lately. And I saw that I was shuffling like a deck of cards, and then all these downloads started to emerge because I messed it all up, you know? So it's okay to shuffle your existence sometimes. It's okay to shuffle everything that you're dealing with because amazing downloads can come from that as well. So I hope this message helps. So one more time, just to finalize this video, in this now moment, you're exactly where you need to be. Otherwise, you would be elsewhere. And then you have to repeat it. In this now moment, I'm exactly where I need to be. Otherwise, I would be elsewhere. And then you can say, there is something that I need to surrender to, something that I need to conquer, or something that I need to accept. I love you guys so much. I hope that you can share this message because I really feel like it's supposed to, and who knows? I can sense when a video is going to be shared, and I feel like this is one of those ones. So infinite light, love, blessings, and know that I love you.